Quentin Tarantino, cinema speculation. Step into the world of Quentin Tarantino as cinema speculation takes you on a thought-provoking journey through his vivid memories, experiences with film, and deep analysis of some remarkable movies. In this engaging summary, you'll explore his fondness and fascination for films like Joe, Dirty Harry, Taxi Driver, and Escape from Alcatraz. Witness how these movies impact Tarantino's views on cinema and shaped his own filmmaking career. Delve into his unique perspective on the impact of violence, audience reactions, and the evolution of film genres.
Tarantino's cinematic formation. In 1970, at only 7 years old, Quentin Tarantino's love for movies was ignited when he accompanied his parents to theaters showcasing unconventional films. His mother's liberal attitude towards unconventional movie experiences allowed young Tarantino to witness movies other kids didn't, shaping his unique perspective on cinema. One particularly memorable movie-going experience in 1972 would forever inspire this legendary filmmaker's quest for a specific feeling. At the age of 7, it was 1970 when Quentin Tarantino first accompanied his mom and stepdad to the Tiffany Theater, where mainstream movies were not the norm. It was a surprising choice for a child's viewing. The double feature they were to watch included Joe, a film filled with violence and dark humor. Little Tarantino found himself amused by the adult humor and cussing, even if he couldn't fully grasp its meaning. He faithfully adhered to good behavior during these outings, avoiding babysitters and delighting in post-movie discussions with his parents. As Tarantino's exposure to unusual films grew, he began to notice that he was seeing movies not typically viewed by other kids. His mother explained her preference for exposing him to these films over the news. She believed that due to his understanding of the plot, he could handle the violent imagery better in movies. Interestingly, Tarantino couldn't stomach Disney's Bambi, a film notorious for its tragic and unanticipated scenes. Later on, when his mother's dating preferences shifted, Tarantino had less access to movies, as they became her designated date nights. However, one of her boyfriends named Reggie sought to win her favor by taking young Tarantino to see Black Gun, starring Jim Brown. Arriving early, they caught the end of the previous film, The Bus Is Coming, which the black audience loudly and passionately detested. This raucous movie-going experience had a profound impact on Tarantino, as he became enchanted by the all-black audience's vocal disdain for the film. Egged on by Reggie, he joined them in their delightfully profane commentary. This exhilarating event in 1972 would hold a special place in Tarantino's memory, so much so that he claims his entire life has been a pursuit of recreating that feeling he experienced in the theater. This journey into unconventional and impassioned cinema heavily influenced Tarantino's unique take on movies and ultimately led to his iconic cinematic style. As a young boy, handling violence and adult themes in films had a profound impact, and it's evident that these early experiences helped shape the groundbreaking director he would become. Unmasking, Dirty Harry's impact. Don Siegel's Dirty Harry marked a significant change in action movies, with its brutally violent scenes and politically charged themes. By exploring the relationship between a tough cop and a sinister serial killer, Siegel gave birth to an enduring film genre. With Clint Eastwood breaking free from his cowboy persona, Dirty Harry ultimately crowned Siegel as a master of cinematic violence and remains his best work, according to Quentin Tarantino. Don Siegel, the visionary director of Dirty Harry, was renowned for his exceptional talent in capturing action scenes. With a robust background in the montage department of Warner Brothers, Siegel's expertise in shooting scenes suitable for cross-cutting in post-production set him apart from his contemporaries. Unlike other directors who viewed fistfights and shootouts as plain action, Siegel portrayed them as unapologetically brutal acts of violence. This violence was brilliantly highlighted in Dirty Harry, a film that solidified Siegel's partnership with actor Clint Eastwood. Although they had already collaborated on 3 previous films, Dirty Harry catapulted Eastwood out of his typecast cowboy roles and secured Siegel's reputation as the undisputed king of cinematic violence. The movie's gripping tale of Inspector Harry Callahan, played by Eastwood, clashing with a deranged serial killer named Scorpio, inspired by the infamous Zodiac Killer, gave rise to the enduring cop versus serial killer movie genre. This genre has since become a staple in action films and police dramas. Quentin Tarantino emphasizes that Dirty Harry was more than just raw action and violence, it carried a potent political message. Siegel targeted an audience of older Americans who felt disconnected from the rapidly changing post-World War II pop culture landscape. Harry Callahan symbolized a solution to the cultural issues that scared and confused this audience, such as counterculture movements, drugs, anti-war sentiment, and the erosion of traditional norms. The expertly crafted directing and perfectly balanced humor throughout this violent thriller convinced Tarantino that Dirty Harry remains Siegel's unparalleled masterpiece. Taxi Driver and the Searchers, Parallels. Quentin Tarantino believes Martin Scorsese's 1976 film, Taxi Driver, is almost a modern adaptation of the 1956 classic, The Searchers. Both movies portray fascinating character studies, depicting their protagonists as lonely, out of place, deeply flawed and troubled individuals with disturbing racial views. The primary distinction that sets them apart lies in the depiction of the characters that are meant to be saved. Tarantino appreciates these films for their accurate representation of society's underbelly and their devastatingly unforgettable outcomes. At the age of 15, future filmmaker Quentin Tarantino saw Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver and fell in love with its accurate and raw depiction of New York City in the 1970s. According to Tarantino, Scorsese's film draws striking parallels to the 1956 movie The Searchers, with the main characters of Travis Bickle and Ethan Edwards sharing similar wartime backgrounds, emotional torments, and antisocial tendencies. Scorsese himself modeled Bickle's character after John Wayne's Ethan Edwards, with both being outsiders who feel they do not belong. Furthermore, Tarantino identifies character parallels between Sybil Shepherd's Betsy and Dorothy Jordan's Martha, as well as Jodie Foster's Iris Steensma and Natalie Wood's Debbie Edwards. The narratives in both films follow the protagonist's struggles with loneliness, disillusionment, and deep-seated racial prejudice. These destructive qualities ultimately lead the characters into spirals of violence and turmoil. An important element to note is the undeniable, yet subtle racism exhibited by both protagonists. Their disdain for certain ethnic groups is reminiscent of the racial tensions present during the respective eras in which the films were produced. Interestingly, writer Paul Schrader's original script called for all of Bickle's victims to be black. However, as a result of contemporary race riots, concerns arose regarding potential violence and backlash in cinemas. The contrast between the black and white interpretations of the original and what transpired on screen in Taxi Driver exemplifies the ways in which authorities attempted to avoid controversy, while still allowing the film's message to shine through. Tarantino contends that such concerns were unfounded considering the numerous movies in the 1970s depicting black criminals. In hindsight, he concedes that Harvey Keitel's magisterial portrayal of the character Sport is indispensable to the film's legacy. A key distinction Tarantino recognizes between the two films is the character's desire to be saved. Iris in Taxi Driver reaches out for help, whereas Debbie in The Searchers does not. Regardless, both Bickle and Edwards act on their own impulses to enact their respective version of salvation. Scorsese may have expressed shock over the audience's reaction to Taxi Driver's explosive, violent ending, but Tarantino believes this was not surprising. The audience's support for De Niro's character to free the underage Iris from her dire circumstances and confront her abusers provides a compelling reason for their reactions to the brutal climax, thus emphasizing the similar themes of both films. Through their careful examination of the complexities and darkness of the human psyche, Taxi Driver and The Searchers serve as captivating case studies that deliver powerful messages through their shocking and unforgettable storylines. De Palma's alternate Taxi Driver. Imagine a world where Brian De Palma directed Taxi Driver instead of Martin Scorsese. Quentin Tarantino offers his perspective on how such a version might have turned out, from the point of view and the characters to the overall tone of the film. In an alternate reality, Brian De Palma could have directed Taxi Driver, and according to Quentin Tarantino, it would have resulted in a vastly different film. When De Palma first read Paul Schrader's screenplay, he saw its potential but couldn't commit to working on it at that time. Had he taken on the project, Tarantino believes that De Palma's directorial vision would have significantly impacted the final product. One of the most striking differences lies in how De Palma might have treated the film's central character, Travis Bickle. Unlike Scorsese, who empathized with Bickle and made viewers see through his eyes, De Palma might have refrained from making the audience identify with the disturbed protagonist. Tarantino speculates that De Palma's Taxi Driver might have been closer to Roman Polanski's Repulsion than Scorsese's character-driven thriller, leaning more towards a political thriller in tone. Another divergence in perspective comes with the depiction of the infamous botched assassination scene. Tarantino imagines a De Palma-directed version featuring slow-motion shots similar to the prom scene in Carrie, which De Palma would have shot immediately after Taxi Driver. This stylistic choice would have further distanced the audience from any connection to Bickle, creating a significantly different emotional experience. Delving into the characters, Tarantino proposes that De Palma's take on Betsy could have been more significant, possibly even as a co-lead. Scorsese's film keeps the focus strictly on Travis, but De Palma might have chosen to portray the story from Betsy's perspective in some scenes. The casting of Taxi Driver would likely have seen a shift under De Palma as well. While Scorsese eagerly recruited Robert De Niro for the role of Travis, De Palma might not have chosen the same path. Tarantino imagines Jeff Bridges or Jan-Michael Vincent as possible Travis Bickles in De Palma's adaptation, as Columbia Pictures originally wanted Bridges for the lead role. Lastly, Tarantino touches on the character of Sport, suggesting that De Palma might have been able to retain Schrader's original vision of Sport as a black character. While Scorsese faced pressure from producers to cast a white actor and wanted Harvey Keitel for the role, Tarantino believes De Palma might have withstood the same challenges and kept the character true to its initial conception. Although it's impossible to know exactly how De Palma's Taxi Driver might have turned out, Tarantino's insights provide fascinating food for thought. They remind fans of the collaborative and transformative nature of filmmaking, from the script to the screen. Unraveling Alcatraz's cinematic charm. Picture the opening scene of Escape from Alcatraz, featuring Frank Morris, portrayed by Clint Eastwood. This gripping cinematic set piece, directed by Don Siegel, is 17-year-old Quentin Tarantino's first encounter with the film. But the appreciation Tarantino now holds for this film would not emerge until years later, after giving it a second chance. Don Siegel, a consummate pro at crafting prison films and Eastwood movies, poured his soul into the making of Escape from Alcatraz. Holding Riot in Cell Block 11 as his first commendable film, and Tarantino's all-time favorite, the collaboration between Eastwood and Siegel proves powerful. Return partners since Dirty Harry, their teamwork undoubtedly thrived off mutual respect and admiration. Imagine Tarantino cogitating over the discussions Eastwood and Siegel must have had regarding the execution of the opening scene. How long before Frank Morris utters his first words? How few lines of dialogue should characters have? The result is a scene that Tarantino deems bravura, adding starkness and creating a cool boil. Escape from Alcatraz unfolds in two distinct halves. The first half captures the harsh solitude and repetitive drudgery of prison life, featuring a warden characterized as both brutal and sadistic. In contrast, the second half unveils the intricate and ingenious escape plan. Although many prison escape films employ gut-wrenching suspense, Alcatraz deviates by displaying Morris slowly chipping away at his cell walls with nail clippers. This relentless act transitions from an initial feeling of hopelessness to inspiration, ultimately becoming epic in Tarantino's eyes. The true victory in this real-life escapade is the collaboration between Siegel and Eastwood. Their long-standing partnership massively benefited both artists. Eastwood became a superstar by working with Siegel, transcending beyond a fleeting phenomenon. Meanwhile, Siegel's association with Eastwood led him to become one of the most sought-after directors, allowing him to break free from obscurity. Siegel and Eastwood's profound respect, love, and admiration for one another culminated in their final collaborative masterpiece, Escape from Alcatraz. This captivating film continues to capture audiences' imagination, showcasing the power and impact of two creative giants.
As you reach the end of this captivating summary, you'll have gained a deeper understanding of Quentin Tarantino's passion for the cinematic experience, and his perspective on the masterworks of legendary filmmakers. Tarantino's detailed analysis of A Dirty Harry, Taxi Driver, and Escape from Alcatraz highlights his unique way of interpreting film, and helps you grasp how these defining movies have contributed to the wider cinematic landscape. Furthermore, get an exclusive look into Tarantino's creative influences, intimately intertwined with his personal experiences and the impact cinema has had on his life. This book summary is a must for film enthusiasts and Tarantino fans alike.